On the Saturday of Lazarus, what did we hear Jesus tell the people to do after he brought Lazarus out of the tomb? He said to everyone, unbind him. The Lord is always the first to loosen us from the sins that we commit. He's the first one that wants to see us go free. He's the first one who wants us to be unfettered, to not have irons and chains around us, and to be bound and attached to anything. And yet tonight we hear what has happened to him. He has been bound. He had the fetters put on his wrists. He had the chains that pulled him from the praetorium to wherever he was beaten, in the courtyard or wherever it was. And then he was led to the cross. He was bound. He was led to Golgotha. He was bound to carry his cross. And then after he died, they wrapped him up. They continue to bind him even to this day. We continue to bind him even to this day. If you think about it, anytime we use God for our own purposes and not for the holiness and righteousness that he wants to bring forth, we are binding him to something that he isn't, something that he never proclaimed, something that he never preached, something that he isn't. Every time we do to somebody else, binding them to harsh words, to lying, to cheating, to stealing, whatever it is, forcing them to do things that we want to do through one way or another, through hook or crook, because we have the financial ability to do so, because we have the muscle to do so, whatever it might be. We're binding people and keeping them unfree. And yet the whole point of Christ's death is to unbind all of us. And yet he's the one that gets wrapped up and tightly bound and put in a tomb. And yet, even when that happens, what's the thing that takes place? He goes into Hades and he frees all those who were there. And many of those people rose and appeared to the people at the time after the resurrection of Christ. Christ's purpose for us is to unbind us, is to free us, to set us free from sin, to set us free from the things that keep us trapped, that keep us down, that keep us from worshiping and appreciating him and his glory. Our response, hopefully, is to not bind him in our own minds to what we think or who we think God is, but to let the message of his gospel, the hymns of the church, and the messages that are given through the holy sacraments allow that explanation to take place. Because in all three of those things, we find Christ as the great liberator. Amen. Kalianastasi.